News Radio 1370 WSPD. And now on 92.9 FM from the YarkAuto.com studios. Here is Scott Sands.
I think it's finally coming to an end. I have not watched nearly as much of the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial as many of my friends have, or frankly, I have not watched as much of it as I would like to have watched based on the highlights I have seen on TikTok. It seems like it was an amazing experience. It seems like one of those trials everybody would have been glued to all day if this had taken place early on in the pandemic, like Tiger King. There's absolutely no reason why anybody would have watched the train wreck that was Tiger King, other than the fact that we had nothing else to do and we were home during the pandemic. The Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial strikes me in many of the same ways, a toxic relationship that makes us all feel better about the bad people we have dated or married in our own life. But it's coming to an end. Sandra Spurgeon is an undefeated trial attorney, more than 120 state and federal cases successfully litigated, and author of Courage to Stand, Mastering Trial Strategies and Techniques in the Courtroom. She's joining me right now. Sandra, great to have you on.
Hi, Scott. How are you?
So you've got a real job, so I don't know how much of this trial you've been able to watch, but obviously it's got to be the talk of the courtroom as well.
It is. I think that the phenomena, the court of public perception really has taken a life of its own. And I think that while in the beginning most of us believed it was a train wreck, there's so many people that of every age group that's following, not just Generation Z, as we thought it would be.
So the best part of the trial have been some of the clips that have circulated on social media, especially as inept as it would appear Amber Heard's counsel has been.
Well, I think that, listen, this is a trial. You typically don't have cameras in the courtroom. And I think that this, just like Marcia Clark in the O.J. Simpson case,
right?
It's the trial of public perception, and you have people analyzing every question, every move, analyzing, questioning, undermining, and there is nothing like pressure when you're standing in the courtroom. And I do believe that Amber Heard's counsel, particularly her female counsel, Elaine, has had difficulty in withstanding the scrutiny that has gone along with this trial.
The perception has not been good. Meanwhile, it seems like Depp's team has been really on top of things and better prepared. Although that's just a perception. I mean, it seems like in the court of public opinion, Johnny Depp has won this case. And I was talking about this on Friday with my Hollywood correspondent who watches all of these celebrities on a regular basis. And we were discussing the fact that it's entirely possible that Amber Heard wins this case, but her career is ruined, whereas Johnny Depp could lose the case and have his reputation restored by the very fact of the perception the public has had of watching this trial.
You're exactly right. And I read an interesting article yesterday, and I stopped and read it again because it said that, really the outcome of the trial doesn't matter to him. I mean, I think you heard during the trial that in 1 year he earned over $40 million. I think that one of Heard's lawyers brought that out. I think it was actually Elaine. And so, but it's really putting him back in front of the jury. The lawsuit against the Sun was an abysmal failure, and I think he and his team and his trial consultants have really set out on a campaign to make him likable again. And you can see it appears to be very effective. And so, you saw him over the weekend. If you had looked at the social media at all, he was in London playing at a concert, got a standing ovation. And what he's really doing is saying to these Hollywood producers, I'm back in the game. I am likable. People like me. I'm ready to go to work again. So whether he wins or he loses this trial, I think he won the trial of public perception and will be, marketable in terms of getting roles in the future.
We're talking with Sandra Spurgeon, and you can find her at Sandra Spurgeon, SPURGEON.com. The book is Courage to Stand, Mastering Trial Strategies and Techniques in the Courtroom. So from Johnny Depp's team, or from Amber Heard's team for that matter, who do you think did best with the jury? We know who did best or we believe we know who did best with public perception, who actually scored the most points with the jury. And in my opinion, am I right about this? It's going to boil down to the judges, the jury instructions to the jury.
Well, Depp lost the instructions, the favorable jury instructions. People forget how important they are. But Depp is being held accountable for his former attack dog. They say it was his attack dog, the attorney Waldman, that was forced off this case for claiming that Heard's claims of abuse were a hoax. And so, so that was interesting. He lost that argument that Waldman's statements were protected. The case was brought in the state of Virginia to avoid the anti-SLAPP legislation or statute that would protect the written speech that's written into this Washington Post op-ed article. So clearly, I think everybody would agree that Camille Vasquez, in terms of cross-examining a witness, she kept her cool. She pointed out point after point after point how Amber Heard had been less than candid and really attacked her credibility. And that's a difficult thing to do with a woman on the stand and not make yourself look. You have to be very careful when you're cross-examining, particularly a woman on the stand, to make sure that you're not looking like a bully. And she did that. She did it really well.
She came out, I think Camille Vasquez is the big winner from this entire trial. I'm also assuming it's very critical during this entire process that, and both teams, I'm sure, spent a lot of time in voir dire and into jury selection to make sure that they got people who could produce a favorable verdict for their side sitting on the jury.
Absolutely. There's no doubt trial consultants were either in earpieces in their ears or they were in the courtroom. They could have been anonymous looking, but in a case of this magnitude, there would have been at least one, maybe two on each side assisting with jury selection. I always, when I'm preparing for trial, the last 2 weeks leading up to the trial, I do nothing but I'm analyzing the jurors who's potentially going to set on my case, so that there are no surprises for me when you get in the courtroom. That's what a good lawyer does. You're trying to eliminate or reduce your risk, and that's exactly what they did.
Wait a second. Are there really jury consultants on headsets in the attorney's ears like you would see on TV? Is that a real thing? Yes. I thought that was just on Bull.
No, if you look at every show that's on national, there's always a basis for which they get the ideas, and absolutely.
Is that
absolutely
legal? I didn't think that was allowed. I knew you could have jury consultants, but I didn't think you could talk to an attorney in a headset.
Well, there are earpieces, and if you looked at Depp's table, there was a man sitting in the second row, at the second table, and it was known by the end of the trial he was their consultant or one of their consultants. I would assume there were many people throughout that courtroom. It's not unusual to have lay people or people associated sitting there listening to what the public perception that's going on right in the courtroom. That's not unheard of. You as a lawyer, you want to make a point, right? And often, you're dedicated and you're thinking and you're very serious about making your point, but other people may not get it. They may not understand it. So when something doesn't work, I call it the drop and roll. You've got to reshape what you said if it's an important point and go after that question again so the jury understands what a pivotal moment that is.
All right, so what happens in this case? I think there are, if I'm not mistaken, and this is probably true in most cases like this, 4 potential outcomes. Johnny Depp could win, Amber Heard could win, or I guess it's really the only 2 outcomes, or they can't reach a decision, but maybe she says she can't pay. Maybe it's a victory, but no damages are awarded, which I think is highly likely. And of course, the appeals. What happens in this case? If you had to gaze into your crystal ball based on what you know of the case, what do you think comes out of this?
I think that a jury could likely find mutual abuse on each side and, like you said, award them little to no money, no damages. It's interesting to me. I was wondering what would happen if the judge was going to sequester the jury over the holiday weekend. I mean, that usually will hasten a decision,
right?
All right, because nobody wants to be locked behind closed doors over a holiday weekend, and she didn't do that. So these people were released out into their homes and communities, and as even though you're taking that oath that you're not going to discuss the case, if they watched the news, they saw the massacre that happened in Texas and in the elementary school, which is such a tragedy. And I kept thinking, how is that going to influence their decision? Are they going to come in on on Tuesday morning and say, "Listen, we've had enough"? There
are much bigger issues than worrying about two rich people getting into a spat over this. It's a toxic relationship. It's over. You're both out. Both of your careers were damaged. We're done with you. That would, I think, be the best outcome possible.
I hear you, but I also am, as a lawyer, you will always want to believe that jurors are considering every piece of evidence. They're looking at every in terms of the definitions of what the elements are of the torts that were committed, and you want to think that their opinions are well thought out. Well, they deliberated on Friday for a couple of hours, and then they've been at it again all day today, and they came out with the question, because, the way that the jury instructions are worded, they're considering Amber Heard, whether she defamed Johnny Depp first. And they came out with a question, and it says whether they should consider the title of the Washington Post op-ed in the consideration to determine whether there was defamation. So these jurors are really giving thought process to what their verdict is what their decision is going to be.
That's as well they should. That should be an important part of the legal process. Sandra Spurgeon, sandraspurgeon.com, Spurgeon. Her book is Courage to Stand, Mastering Trial Strategies and Techniques in the Courtroom. Sandra, I've got about 1 minute here. Do you think that this case may be the catalyst for more cases involving men who are the victim of domestic or spousal abuse?
I do. I think that it has been an unspoken injury for a number of years, and I think that now that you see someone coming out, such as Johnny Depp, talking about that there's no shame in discussing it. Yes, I think that there's going to be, I think that it's now going to open up that discussion, which there should be. If there's abuse on either side of the aisle, it needs to be an open dialogue. So I think we have progressed. I mean, as a Generation Z, they continue to impress me in terms of the discussions that they're forcing us all to have.
Sandra, great to have you on. Thank you so much for your time.